Okay, so here we are, session number 3, all about editing the video, and we're going to focus primarily on DaVinci Resolve, which is just an awesome free platform that can do so much. Of course, you can use what video platform you're most used to, or perhaps you're trying to migrate over to DaVinci Resolve. I'm sort of migrating over to DaVinci Resolve, loving what it can do. But I do want to start by showing you a couple of new things in the community, quick access to these resources that are going to help you with your virtual choirs or instrumental presentations. And then I want to jump into what questions you have from the last session. So I'll go ahead and share my screen with you so that you can see. Let me pull it up here. It took longer than I wanted it to. Here it is. All right, so here's the community. Hopefully you're all in the community forums. If you're not, email me right after this. Say chris@theresourcefulchurchmusician.com, and I will send you the link you need to click on to get set up in the forums. It is the central hub of everything that happens in our community. You can access the online courses, you can access the 30-day challenge materials, and you can talk to one another, which I highly encourage you to do because there's strength in community, my friends. So you'll notice a couple of brand new features over here in the left-hand side of your screen, or if you're on the app as well. You'll also get that drop down on the left side of your screen. So down here below topics, which has been there, events, which has been there, you're going to see courses. When you click courses, that takes you to all of the courses in our community. Yes, I have moved the courses over from the website, although you can still access them on the website. But for easier access, you can now get those inside of the community without having to go somewhere else. Now, the way our platform is designed is you click on the course that you're most interested in looking at, and you will have to request access. So once you request access, I'm pretty quick at seeing that notification and letting you right in so you can get to work and learning some of the things you're interested in learning. Of course, we've got all the digital courses on the things that we're talking about for these virtual presentations as well. And then the second thing I want to show you is right below courses is the 30-day challenge. Now, if you click that link, it's going to take you to the website, which is where the sessions are uploaded and hosted right now. So you can see here session 1 and 2. If you haven't had a chance to watch that, no problem. You can just navigate to that link later and check those out. And then you also have quick access to the course materials that would help you in this process on that page. One other thing I want to show you for those of you who have been on our member Q&A calls, we have 2 regularly scheduled ones each month in addition to all the things that are happening in the 30-day challenge. And that's right here. I put a little quick access button. If you click that, that will take you to the database of member calls. You're all welcome to attend. We do 2 of these each month, and I typically send out several days in advance the Zoom link for that. And here you can just see what calls you've missed, or perhaps want to revisit. Or if you miss next week's call, you can just know that it's going to be uploaded there to the site. So I wanted to show you those things before I now take an opportunity. Hello, Lori. Good to see you. And we've got, pretty much everybody who's a part of this challenge. So what questions do you have as far as it pertains to recording the audio and editing that audio within something like Audacity? What questions do you have from last week's content? We'll start there. Yes, Miss Lori.
Okay, so I don't have a question about that.
That's okay.
You just need to know the meeting ID, because I'm watching on my phone right now and I want to watch on my laptop. I couldn't find
Gotcha. Yeah, I should be able to get that real quick for you. The meeting ID is, I'm going to throw it in the chat box there for you.
Okay, thank you.
And I don't believe I set up a password for this one since I shared it with you guys. So there's that meeting ID. What questions do we have about audio and editing that audio?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, Patty.
You talked last week about panning. Could you explain a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so panning gives you the option, and let me, before I even jump into that, I got a couple of great questions this past week on that whole idea of editing within Audacity. Someone had asked on the last session, can I just bypass that step and do all of this within something like DaVinci Resolve? And the answer to that is yes. If you've taken the time to provide sort of a click lead in that helps you easily line up your audio, yes, you can do that. And in some situations, that might be fine. I'm a huge advocate of having ultimate control over the audio experience. And so what you can do in something like Audacity, for example, is mix down your various vocal parts, say your sopranos into a soprano section, your altos into an alto section, tenors, basses, and have control over the blend because, let's face it, some voices blend better than others, and we pretty much have a good handle of that as choir directors in terms of our singers and how we need to approach that. Maybe Cindy needs to sit next to Jan, because they blend really well together, right? So we know all of those things, and we can sort of micromanage that within something like Audacity. Now, you can do that to an extent within DaVinci Resolve, but you have a little more control in Audacity. So what I will do real quick here is pull up Audacity so y'all can see what Patty's asking there, because this is a great way to have a little control in terms of how you're positioning certain things on the audio experience, like to the left, to the right, center, etc. So you should all be able to see that. I'm just going to real quick import some audio here and using Jeannie's really quick way that I've now come to know and love. And she just goes to import audio, as you could see there, and then she just drags in her video. So let's just do 2 of those videos. And then that imports them onto Audacity. Pretty awesome, right? So you get to bypass that whole extraction step, with QuickTime and that sort of thing. So here we are, and we've got a couple of options here in Audacity. This right here, the minus and the plus, is your volume. This here, LR, is your left pan, your right pan. So if you had headphones on and you played this back and went that direction, you'd hear it in your left ear or your right ear. And so let's imagine that this is a soprano and a tenor part. Maybe that's just a duet, okay? And we want a little bit of separation sonically in the audio. So what we might do is just pan this soprano 50% to the left, and then pan this tenor 50% to the right. So now what you're going to get is more of a chorus-like effect, or a little bit of separation in the audio. It's amazing if you've ever experimented with something like an organ track or even chorus, like you've recorded your chorus, and you do this exercise where the faders are up, meaning I haven't panned to the left or the right yet, and they're up, you get this very mono, sort of two-dimensional sound. But when, imagine you're sitting in a concert hall or in a worship service and you're listening to that choir, well, you're getting, of course, the speakers perhaps that they're running through, but also the acoustics in the room. You're getting the pan from left to right, sopranos, altos, tenor, bass, depending on how yours is positioned. And so you can sort of capture that within Audacity. So if I had an SATB group, I might pan a little to the left for my sopranos, a little less to the left for my altos, a little to the right for my tenors, and a little more to the right for my basses. And what that's going to do is open up the sound sonically. Does that make sense, Patty? Awesome. Any other questions about audio before we jump into video? Yes, Michelle.
Hi, I was just working on this morning, really for the first time, and so I've got a lot of questions, but I'll just ask one for now. Sure. What happens when I had like 9 altos audio files, and one of them all of a sudden got really small. The waveform just was really small, and I think you maybe said this before, but I couldn't remember.
I don't think I've covered that one. What it sounds like happened, Michelle, is that when that person was recording, for some reason, the microphone just stopped picking them up.
Okay.
Or now, can you kind of faintly hear them singing in the background?
Well, it is a person who has a lot of trouble projecting. So
Okay. I wonder if they got really soft. Now, a couple things. It could point to maybe they felt insecure in that passage. I don't know. Or maybe it was just one of those things where, I don't know, they couldn't figure out. Maybe they got a little scared of the process. Yeah, it sounds like they just totally dropped out for that portion, especially if you have a WAV file up to a certain point.
well, and I mean, this particular instance, it was the whole track. I
Oh,
felt like I was able to see it better,
yeah.
and then all of a sudden I couldn't see it very well. But
And that person has trouble projecting anyways.
Yeah.
So it sound maybe they're not singing loud enough. In that instance, you might just go back to them and ask them to re-record, but sing up a bit, encouraging them that you're going to place them in the mix in an appropriate way, right? Maybe they need to. There's several things that could be going on there. I mean, it could also be, it could be an issue of their phone and not have, maybe something's wrong with their microphone, right?
That's what I
So
was
it could be that too. And you could experiment by, having, like, most of these headphones have microphones built into them. You could experiment. I know they have headphones in the other ear, but what if they did one in this ear that's connected to that device, one in the other ear that's connected to that device, or just kind of hung it here so they could be picked up in that microphone. So those are some options to explore.
okay, thanks.
All right. You're very welcome. And the other questions, and this goes for anybody, drop those in the community. That's what that's for. And we even have a community chat feature, which is kind of cool. So if you're working on a project and you want to kind of open up a chat room for anyone who's online to contribute in a time that's convenient, just drop those questions in there too, and we can all help one another out. We got a few more who have joined us. Welcome, welcome, my friends. Any other questions before we jump into video editing? Patty.
Did you say there's an app for this?
For our community?
Uh-huh.
Yes, it's under Mighty Networks. Here's what I'll do for you guys. Right after this, I will... Are you in the community forums, Patty?
Yes.
Okay, so in the community
I
forums... Sure. I will...
In there yet.
I will drop the link for the app in the forum so you guys can get quick access to that. I'll also put it in an email. Okay?
Great.
All right, y'all. Let's go ahead and jump on into the video editing process using DaVinci Resolve. Now, as I preface every week, you can use any video platform for this pretty much, but I've grown to know and love DaVinci Resolve, learning more every single week that I use it. It's super robust and it's super free, which I really like about it. And if it tells you anything, I was asked the question last week, Chris, if you had your ideal setup, what would you use? And I said, well, if we're talking about free, I'd use these two. If we're talking about paid, I'd use these two. And both on the free and the paid, I said DaVinci Resolve because it's just that good. So what I'm going to do is share my screen with you. I'm going to open up DaVinci Resolve. We'll get this party started. Okay, so it's taken just a second to open up. Zoom is funny in its share feature. I like it. It gives you a lot of control, but I wanted to take you through the process of, like, from opening it up to starting a session. It's not going to let me show you it actually opening up in real time. It does take DaVinci Resolve a minute to load because it is a hefty program. I have heard from a couple of folks who have had some issues with their computer getting stuck at a certain point, typically in the video rendering process where you're saving that video into the playable file. And, just make sure that every other application is not in use when you're using DaVinci Resolve, just because it is a robust program. Like even today, you'll notice that there's a little bit of lag on the video just because I've got a few things open. So here we are, DaVinci Resolve. I'm going to start this untitled project here. Uh-oh. I don't think you guys can see that right now, so give me a second. Let me get back to Zoom. We'll stop that share, and we'll restart a new one. Okay, so you guys should see that. That is the dashboard. Once you start your brand new session, which is just like, you know, opening up any new file in a program, you have the ability to save that and, you know, rename your file if you'd like, save current project. I won't do that for now. But this defaults to your cut scene. Now, one thing that took me a minute to realize within this program is that all of the basic functions in navigating DaVinci Resolve is down here at the bottom part of the screen, which is a little different from other video platforms that I've used. So each one of these icons will take you to a screen where you can do some different things. So it defaults to this this cut page, and you see up here, this is called the media pool, and this is where you can import your files. Now you can also navigate down here at the bottom left hand side of the screen to media, and same thing, you could import your media here, but I like the way it looks here. So what I'm going to do is start up here, and I could drag these in, like I could highlight my videos and just drag them in like I can in iMovie. But for this demonstration, I'm going to go to Import Media, and I'm going to pick the 5 files that I've been using in a lot of these examples. Now, I took the time to finalize the audio for these 4 video tracks. So I'm going to import 5 files, and included in that, and you're going to first get this prompt. This prompt, you're going to want to follow and actually change it. It says, do you want to change the timeline frame rate to basically match the video frame rate? You want it to all have the same frame rate, and yes, we do, so we're going to change that. And then you can see it imports my content up here. Now once it imports my content, I can kind of hover over each one and you can see the video. Okay, and I did 4 separate videos at the piano, and I did Keith Green's Easter song. If you're familiar with that one, it's a fun, fast song. I love it. Every Easter season I try to do it. But then I took the audio from these videos, and within within Audacity, I created this final audio file. Now I want to stop for just a second, because that's the first step, is to get our media inside of the media pool. What questions do we have thus far? Pretty self-explanatory, pretty easy process, right? And some of you may use different platforms. It's going to be similar there for you as well. Let's see. Let's jump back to sharing that screen, and I'll show you the next step in our process. Now, again, I'm still sort of figuring out. I am no pro at DaVinci Resolve, but I've learned a couple of different ways to edit video within DaVinci Resolve, depending on what it is you're looking for. First, I'm going to talk about the traditional way to do this, to get that sort of traditional virtual choir look that we've all grown to know and love, and that is to have like several different squares or rectangles on the screen. So first thing we're going to want to do is highlight all of these videos and this audio file together, and we're going to right click. On a Macintosh, it's Control click, and I'm going to get a couple of different options here. We're going to navigate to that top option which says Create New Timeline Using Selected Clips. So we click that. Okay, now you get this prompt for the timeline. You get to name that timeline. We'll call it, for our purposes today, just demo. And down here, we're going to name the number of tracks, video tracks that we have. If you look up there, we've got 4, so we're going to say 4. And we're going to say 5 for audio tracks, because on each one of these video tracks is some audio. And I've received the question here lately, Chris, why keep the audio attached to the video if we're not going to use it in the master audio file? Well, the reason you want to do that is because it's going to make things much easier when you go to line them up within DaVinci Resolve. Okay, so we're going to keep those attached. So we're going to say we have 5 separate audio files. Click on that, and then you're pretty much done. You press Create, and you can see it populates down here. Now we're still in the cut view. I'm going to move over to edit view because I like this a lot better, and this is where I'm going to be able to actually get access to each individual video on the timeline. Now, one cool thing about DaVinci Resolve, even though it's busy, right? It looks very complicated and very scary. I mean, I was a little freaked out. I'm not gonna lie. When I first opened up DaVinci Resolve, I was like, "This is not iMovie. This is very different." But like anything, the more you do it, the easier it gets, and you start to be able to navigate it a little more easily. And you guys can use the online course portion that we have in the community as well to help you navigate DaVinci Resolve, because I go into a couple of different things on that. But here you have the ability to drag these things around and actually get your your video view to look a little larger, or if you need the timeline down here to look a little larger where you can see the audio files a little better, you can even click up here on media pool and you can get you can see what's going on here. And up here, I clicked on media pool, I'm going to enlarge that for a minute. If you look down here at the bottom, it says demo, and that's what's on my timeline. So I highlighted all of these files, and then it created this file, which it moved down here. Now, one of the cool things about this is I can then move on down here to the audio video portion. There's this little tab right here where I can minus and plus, so I can get bigger or smaller depending on what I need to do. And I can start to move these videos into their own little space, because when I said 5 video tracks, we'll look up here, it created 5 video tracks for me. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, where am I missing one? 1, 2, 3, 4, oh, 4 videos, I'm sorry, 4 video tracks, and then we did 5 audio tracks. So that's why we went through that. And then you see how I drug each one of those up to its separate track. Now I could get nitty gritty here, and sometimes I do that because I like to see 1, 2, 3, 4 as opposed to 1, 3, 4, 2. That's maybe confusing. So you could definitely like get up here and play around with that and make that look the way you want it to, if you're like me. Control freak sometimes. In the best of ways, though. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take our final audio file, which is our master audio file that we edited in Audacity, and we're going to not pull the volume down. See, you can control the volume right there just by grabbing that line. It can happen very easily. And then we're just going to drag this on down to where that 5th audio track is. And in a second, we're going to use that to line all of this up. But now I bet we've got a couple questions. So I want to stop and I give you guys that opportunity. What questions do we have thus far? Yes, Jeannie. And make sure you're unmuted there, Miss Jeannie.
On mine, it shows 2 areas. It's instead of 1 area for your video to show, it's 2. And I'm not sure what the difference is on those 2.
There's a couple of things that may be happening, and you're on the edit screen at that point.
There are 2. I don't know. I don't know which one's the edit screen.
Yeah, and I know you're a PC user, right?
Right.
So one thing could be PC. Things do look different from PC to Mac, but the overall functions remain the same. Now, there's another reason that yours may not look like mine, and I'd have to get in here and experiment. When you first set up DaVinci Resolve, the prompts that you get, which I think is actually very genius, is that you can set up DaVinci Resolve according to the look that you're used to based on other video platforms. So I've used iMovie a whole lot, and so it gave me the option to set it up to look like iMovie. Now, we just looked at it. It doesn't really look like iMovie, so I'm not really sure about, what it was thinking, except perhaps, well, actually, now that I think about it, if you've used iMovie, if you think about the media, it is typically in the top left-hand part of the screen, and then your timeline's on the bottom. Okay? So it did set it up like iMovie. So I wonder, did you get a prompt like that, Jeannie?
I don't remember. But
So it may be one of those things. It's worth the experiment.
I think what she's seeing is you have the choice of looking at the input and the output, And if you look at the top right, you'll see if you've got two little screens up there, you'll see just to the left of the three dots, you'll see a square box. If you click on that, it will reduce it down to one, just your output.
Okay. Okay. That makes sense. Okay.
So Richard, are you saying in, that was Richard, right?
That was Bob.
Okay. So you're show me where that little button is.
I don't see it on yours.
Okay, gotcha.
Can you close the inspector for a minute? If you click on inspector, that'll close that. There it is. So you'll see those two boxes because you've got one. If you click on the two boxes, you'll get two. On the extreme right.
Extreme right.
Down, but there you go. Not extreme. Right there. Right next to the three ellipses. Yeah. No. Next to it.
There it is. It was hiding under my little Zoom tab. Yeah, okay, so you may be seeing that. Does that look familiar, Jeannie?
That's what I have, yes.
Okay. Richard, you have saved us, my friend.
Thank you, Richard.
Everybody give a silent round of applause for the power of community. I love it. Thank you, guys. That is awesome and helpful. Okay, so we're going to deselect that right now and get back to our primary video view. Now, I have 4 videos that I'm working with, and like I said, we've created this master audio file. So what I'm going to do is, make my timeline a little larger so I can more easily see this stuff down here. And we're going to start with the audio. We're going to start with the audio because we got to line that up, and it's going to, if I move an audio file, it moves a video file, right? Because they're connected, and that's a good thing in this case. I'm going to use the master audio file to line everything up. Now, in DaVinci Resolve, at least what I have and what I see is when I zoom in, we see our click. I started this out with a 6-count click. Now, I wouldn't typically have the click go through the whole thing, but because I just created this for demonstration purposes, I was fine with that. But I needed to start out with that click to get everything lined up. You could start out with a hand clap, right? We talked about that in session number 1. Choir, 1, 2, 3, clap. Boom, they clap, and now you've got your sync point. You could do that with the accompaniment file if it's tight enough. I still think, meaning that your waveforms are big enough and sharp enough to be able to visualize, but you got to remember that some of your audio is not going to, and you don't necessarily want the audio to bleed through their headphones into their phone. You don't want it that loud, right? So a click is best, or a hand clap to sort of line everything up. So that's what we've got here. And as close as I can visually, I'm just going to move to each one of these and get them as close as I can. And you can see up here, I can't really go that direction, so I can make this one a little smaller and get to that first click here. So I'm gonna move that one over, and then let's get to, see, that one's way over here, so let's truncate that guy a little bit. I like saying that word, truncate. And then we move this guy over. All right, well, that's pretty close. Now, we still got to get close because I'm not in the ballpark yet. Now, I'm going to open that up a little bit more, and you can see, wow, Chris, you're still a bit off. So, and, people say that to me sometimes. Chris, you're a bit off. Well, let's see here. That's as close as I can get just dragging it without nudging it. I'm going to show you how to nudge it in just a moment. Yeah, we're going to nudge it because I'm not going to be able to by just dragging. Now, on my Macintosh, and I would imagine this works the same way on your PC, I can press Option. For you, it may be Control, or maybe another command key, and then I can use my arrow keys to actually nudge this audio into place and get it tighter. And that's what I'm doing right now. Okay?
Here's your audio key.
Your audio key?
Yes, what are you talking about? On your, to nudge it.
Oh, to nudge it? I'm using my Option key. And Jeannie, are you telling us we can use another?
No, I'm just wondering how you're doing that.
Oh, I press my Option key on my Mac. For PC folks, I'm sure there's a do our PC folks know like what's comparable to a Mac Option or Command key? Do you guys know that? Okay, it's a Google search, and we'll find it and we'll put it in the community. But that's how you can nudge your audio.
Yeah, I think it's the Alt key.
The Alt key?
Yep.
Okay.
The Alt key, and then if you hit the left or right arrow, it'll nudge it down. I like a frame at a time, so. It won't move it very much.
Yeah. So let's go back to DaVinci Resolve there. And so now that I've lined these up pretty close, get that a little tighter. I'm going to play it back and let's hear what it sounds like. Okay, so that's nice and lined up. Let me make this a little smaller. Now, remember, if we've taken the time to create, this is where that question I referenced earlier about, Chris, if we can line up all the audio in DaVinci Resolve, then why take the time to do that in Audacity? Well, it's so you can have a little more control of your audio experience. Now, DaVinci Resolve, more than some video editing platforms, gives you the ability to get in here and edit your audio. Let's see, I'm not sure, I can't get the zoom thing off my screen, but I'm not sure if you can go as far as panning and that sort of thing. I haven't experimented with that, but if you navigate down here, we can find it may be right here on the music tool. Yeah, so it looks like we've got some controls here, like even over here in the mixer view. I can pull that out a little bit. You can do some basic equalization on that. You can add some audio effects. Okay, so it's a little more robust than I thought. So you can add effects within DaVinci Resolve. So Pam, to your point, I believe I heard you earlier referencing, you know, I'm kind of playing around with the idea of doing my audio in DaVinci Resolve. It looks like you've probably got a little more robust tool than I originally thought there. In terms of the panning and that sort of thing, I mean, if it can add effects, I would imagine it can pan as well. But, you know, it will also kind of come to what you're most used to and what you're comfortable with. I like still using, you know, other platforms to create that file and have a little more control over my audio before importing it. So, but, you know, there's no one right way to approach this thing. It really is going to be based on what you're after and what you want to do. So because I've taken the time to edit this prior in Audacity, I'm going to go ahead and mute the files that are attached to that video, and you're going to notice that the audio got a little cleaner. Now this audio I didn't record very well because it's, you know, demo purposes, and I used what I had on hand, which was my Mac microphone, and that's really never a good idea for an accompaniment track. But here we go. Okay, so things are nice and lined up. It's a little cleaner now since I muted these channels, and I've got what I want since I took the time to edit that earlier. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to enlarge the video view just a little bit. Then I can even get in here and enlarge these video tracks like so to see that a little easier. And I'm going to take the time again, you know, this is just my personal preference. I'm going to take the time to go in here, and I can press Command A, and for you PC users that may be Alt A or something else to highlight all of that. And you know what, I don't know if that's going to allow me to. What I want to do is see what I want to do. I want to drag that and make it cleaner. I can't do that with the Command Alt key just yet. I need to go into these individually and sort of line them up where I want them, because I end with click track. I don't necessarily want that last click on there. Let's see, now they're all lined up here on the right side. I can even go here on the left and sort of tighten that up a little bit. I'm going to go in here because my videos fade, and I want you guys to be able to see the video when I start to actually put them in the grid view. Okay, so now all that's nice and clean. Now I'm going to press Command A, highlight all of that, or you could just do it like this, right? Drag and select all of that. And I'm just going to drag it to the beginning of that timeline. So now when I click here and press play, you get everything. Okay, so let's stop it for just a moment and let me answer any questions that you guys may have about the process up to that point. Jeffrey.
Yes, the click track in the accompaniment, is that on Finale, or how do you create that and remove it?
So there's several ways to do it. The way that I did in this video, which is not the ideal way, but just to show you that it's an option, is I went to Google and I said, Google, I want a metronome. So I typed in metronome comes up, and I can set it to the tempo I want, and I just let that bleed through my microphone all the way through. But remember, I wasn't going to use this for any kind of performance. We don't want that click track in the overall performance, right? We've got to get that separate. So one option there, if you go the easy Google route, is just to have someone stop it when you start to record. That's one way, probably not the best way. Within Audacity, someone shared with me this week, I'm not entirely sure how you could do this. I know how you do it in GarageBand. I'm not familiar with the process in Audacity, but you can create a click track within Audacity and actually record that to a channel. Like I would in GarageBand, I can pull up the click and actually record that to one of my audio channels, so it's separate from my accompaniment channel. So now I have the ability to mute that click track, or to soften it, or just bring it in for a certain amount of time and then stop it. Now another way to do that, if you don't even want to mess with click tracks and trying to get those within your audio software, is to take your cell phone or something, record with some headphones, put the click on so you're listening to the click and keeping everything nice and tidy here or wherever you are, and that's now that you're solid with a tempo, but what you're going to need to line your choir or your instrumental group up is something like a clap. 1, 2, 3, clap, boom. That shows up in their audio files as well as your audio file, so you can use that to line everything up. Does that make sense, Jeffrey? Does anybody have any tips about click tracks, sometimes traps, but click tracks, and that process of putting those together? Miss Pam?
I don't necessarily have a tip, but I do have a follow-up question to Jeffrey's question. I am working with a click track, and my dilemma is that my accompanist did record his accompaniment with a click track. Okay. So he used GarageBand to record the accompaniment with a click in with the accompaniment. So now my dilemma is, so all of the singers heard that click when they were singing. So it made everything easier for them to sing with. They clapped at the beginning of their recording. So everything should line up nicely when I get ready to do all of my editing. What I'm wondering is, how am I going to get that click? Jeffrey's second question, how am I going to get that click out of the accompaniment track?
Because it's recorded with your accompaniment, right?
It's recorded with the accompaniment in GarageBand. So, and I do have a second accompaniment that doesn't have that click, but then I'll have to line that up without the click in it. So I've been thinking that through in my head going, huh.
Yeah. That is an interesting thing. Here's what I love about it, though, is you're a problem solver, and you are out there looking, what's the way I can solve this problem? Because that's a tricky one. Where my head goes immediately, and it's not going to be super simple, but because you've had your choir members already record, the way I would approach that is to have your accompanist come back in and record their part again on a separate track while they listen to the track they had recorded prior. I'm seeing some heads nod. Do you guys concur? Does that seem like the best approach there? Yeah. Does that make sense, Pamela? Okay, so what you're going to do is go back to, what's the name of your accompanist?
David.
David. So go back to David and say, David, so here's the problem. Awesome job, but the click's embedded. Okay? Is he aware that the click's embedded?
Yes.
Okay. So what you're going to want him to do is go back and record again, but he's going to have to record listening to the track that he first sent to you that has the click embedded, so that he stays on time and plays the exact form and structure as he did before. And so then you'll have that file which doesn't have click, and because he's lined it up with click by listening to it, he can drag it into place, or you can drag it into place. Okay? Cool. Awesome. Awesome. So let's jump. Now, one thing I've heard and I keep hearing, and it makes me realize that I have to address this in what I'm doing is I'm putting together, and I've taught virtual choirs for quite a bit, and I've refined my process and continue to refine it because I don't think it's the scary, hairy thing that we're all scared of, or that we shouldn't be scared of it, because it's we're scared of what we don't know, right? I mean, I was the same way, and I will continue to be the same way with certain things until we know it, and it's like, oh wow, it's not so hard after all. The way I used to teach this, not the most efficient way. We're refining that process, but I keep hearing click track. And so in an upcoming online course, I'm taking all the feedback from you all and refining this current process using Audacity and DaVinci Resolve to create a more succinct course in that style, Jeffrey, that you were mentioning earlier. That's, one video for one operation or function, and I'm hearing click track. So I'm going to teach the click track and best practices there. And in next week's session, I'll want to hear from you also. Be thinking about this. What are ways I can clear things up for you and for future folks that will take these courses and learn this process? What would be the cleanest path forward, the most efficient path forward in terms of crafting that course to be as helpful as it can, because I don't want to leave anything out. But click track. And then in terms of, Michelle, you asked me a question about the track limit in DaVinci Resolve. I did a quick Google there, and just upon first glance, I'm not seeing an exact track limit. Does anybody know if there is a track limit and what it is within DaVinci Resolve? And if not, I'll make a note of that to find that information. No? Okay. So we're going to be on the lookout, Miss Michelle. Okay, let's.
You may be limited by the power of your computer.
Exactly. Now, on that note, okay. Now, this, if your eyes glaze over when I say this, just tune me out for the next 10 seconds. On that note, if you are running on a machine that can't handle 50 tracks, and DaVinci Resolve can handle 50 tracks, one option you just have to make sure that when you save your files off, that you save them off large enough that you can re-import them, kind of like we're doing Genie and Audacity, right? Saving off our files, re-importing them into the software as a separate video. I've thought about this too as a great way. Some of you have asked me about how can I get a little more fancy with angles and that sort of thing. How can I have like my 20 voice choir, and then I want to cut to a soloist, and then I want to cut to a instrumental or a duet or something like that. Well, by saving our files off into separate things, we do two things. We can help our CPU in terms if we're working on a machine that can't quite handle that many videos. Save your virtual choir piece off as a separate video. Save your piano track off, if you've got one, as a separate video. Save your soloist track off as a separate video. And then you can go back into DaVinci Resolve. You're importing 3 videos to work in at this point, not 20. All right, so did that make sense to maybe half of the group? And if it did, awesome. If it didn't, I will think of a better way to say that, and don't worry about it right now, because first things first, let's get our videos in that grid view. So what I'm going to do is go back to DaVinci Resolve, and here we have our nice, tight, clean video all lined up. And so this next process is kind of cool, actually. I'm going to enlarge the video. Okay, enlarge that video so you can see it. And what we're going to do is we're going to highlight all these videos and audio files again. Remember, I can just do that, or I can press Command A if I'm a Mac, or PC probably has a comparable thing. And we're going to right-click it. Okay? No, we're not. We're not going to right-click it. We're going to actually highlight it all, and we're going to go to this little button. See that little button right there? looks like a text box or something. What we're going to do is click it. That's the transform button. We're going to click it right now, but nothing happened. But magically, when I click here within the timeline, oh, I get that same little box around my video. And what's cool about this is I can drag my video into different sizes, right? And so now we're getting closer to that whole virtual choir thing. Now, because I have 4 videos to work with, I can head over here to the inspector. Again, if what I'm about to say is a little confusing, tune it out because it does not matter. You can do this, and for you it might be an easier way to approach this. And if you have more than 4 videos, there is an easier way to approach this. But if you've got 4 you're working with, because I know some of you are working with quartets, I know the size of my screen here, or this video, is going to be 1920 by 1080 pixels, and that's very standard size. Most of our televisions are broadcasting in high definition at 1920 by 1080, and now we've got 4K, and we're going to move into 6K at some point, and they get bigger and bigger. But this is pretty standard. Because I did the math, I know that I could position these videos. If I divide all of that, that comes out to be 4. I have 4 rectangles here I can work with, so I should be able to take a rectangle and put it in each side of the screen there. That comes out to 480 by 270 pixels, dividing 1920 and 1080 by 4, 1480 to 280 or 270. And you see what happened here. I'm going to also zoom to half the size. So I'm going to go half size on that, and it put it perfectly here in the top part of my my screen. And so now what I'm going to do is click on each one of these videos, and I have that same option. I could either drag it, or I could do my math over here because I have the 4 videos and go, why don't we say 480, which puts it on the right hand side of the screen. Oh, I need to make it 0.5 as well. We're going to go half size. And I'm going to make that by -270. Why -270? Because it's going in the bottom part of the screen. Okay, now let's go to video number 3. And again, we're going to come over here, go half size on it. And we're going to go -480 this time because it's going to the left-hand side. And we're going to go +270 because I'm going to go to the top part of the screen. And our final video, same idea, half size. And we're going to go -480, and you guessed it, -270. Put that down there at the bottom part of the screen. And so now I've got these 4 videos that have filled this space. Now it works well for 4 videos. The math gets a little hairy scary when you start to have more videos. Like even with 8 videos, you've got to get a little creative with it, and then it becomes this thing where you're using a combination of the transform tool here maybe to nudge things in place, and then also your eye, like where do I want this video to be, okay, that sort of thing. And you can drag, you can move, and all that. But if I go back to my settings there, -480 and -270, and I press play on this thing, you're noticing the latency there. I would not have that latency when I save that video off. Remember, I've got 15 things open, and the point made earlier is you want to make sure that you've got other softwares closed because DaVinci Resolve is kind of a robust program. Okay, I'm back with you here. So what questions do we have about the process up to this point? Yes, Jeannie.
So suppose you have 16 that you need to. You need a grid of 16.
Right.
How do you do that?
So if you want 16, let's do this. Let's go back into DaVinci Resolve. Now again, this is where you're not going to be able to do the math in the same way. But if we go back to our media pool, and here I'll go back to the first screen that we saw. Let's see, how can I do this easily? give me a second. I'm going to save these videos. I'm going to duplicate them very quickly so that I get a different name for these. Okay, perfect. Just got that process finished. Back to DaVinci Resolve. We're going to go File, and we're going to import media, and we're going to go and import. Hopefully it'll just import the 4. You can see I put copy beside each one of those. Yeah, it did. So it imported 4. Now these are the same exact videos. What I'm going to do now is go back here to the timeline and control all that. And let's just delete it. Yeah, delete it just like that. Boom. And what we're going to do is even delete that. I'm going to remove that. And now we've got how many videos? We've got 8 videos. That could be 16, right, Jeannie? But for now, for time's sake, I'll go 8. And we're going to highlight all of that with the final audio. And remember, right-click it, create new timeline using selected clips. Timeline, let's call it demo again. And we've got 8 video tracks. And we've got 9 audio tracks, because remember there's audio on the videos as well. Create, takes it to the timeline. Remember, we like this edit tool over here. It's just nice and clean. Let's make this a little smaller so we can see it easily. And let's just drag those videos up in the same way. And we're going to go through that process again, right, Jeannie, of lining those video files and audio files up. You would do it in the exact same way that we did with the first the tool. Let me get this down here and then I'll show you. I won't actually go through that whole process for time's sake, but it's the same process. I just want to make sure I'm clear there. So let me go down a little bit, drag this guy down. That's one thing I don't like. I don't like how it's a little cumbersome to sort of move this guy around. You have to be careful where you click too, because if you click in the middle it affects the volume. We'll go down to that bottom channel. We're going to enlarge this a bit. Okay, we enlarge it. Remember, we're going to line things up to this track. First we do that visually as best we can, and then remember sometimes we have to make those files smaller, etc. And then we can get nitty-gritty with it. I'm not going to do all tracks now, but I can go down here and use my little nudge tool, right? Once I get these things a little more lined up. And once we've taken the time to do that, let's say we're happy with the results of that, and the video and the audio is all lined up, what I can do is pull this video transport down again in the timeline. Let's make our screen a little bigger. And I'm going to go in here and highlight all of these. Command A or drag like that, right? Let's see here. If I highlight all those, I'm going to move over here to my transform button. Click that. Nothing happens until I take my mouse off of that. Let's make this even bigger so we can see it. And now the reason you're seeing black is because remember my videos fade in, so I'm going to pull my little guy here somewhere else so you can actually see the video. And now I get access to all of those videos, and I click on each one, and I have the ability to make those smaller. And so Jeannie and others wondering, in this case, what you're going to want to do is move things around on the screen based on, you know, your visual preferences there. What have you sort of lined, what have you envisioned this to look like? You know, I mean, you have the ability to make one of these videos, you know, say larger than the others. Maybe it's the soloist that you want to highlight and he or she sings throughout the entire piece. Well, that could be one big square, and then maybe all the other squares or rectangles are a little smaller. So you can go up here and do all of this visually just by clicking on these and changing the size of them. And then I was referencing the inspector tool, that you can sort of get nitty-gritty with it, and once the math is going to vary the more videos that you have here. It's not as easy as just, well, now let's half the size, and instead of going half, 0.5, we'll go 0.25. It doesn't work that way. And I know musicians are supposed to be good at math. This one never was. So I can do basic math, and then the nitty gritties of why it doesn't work, I don't know. But here's what I know is visually, I am going to have the ability to move these things around and sort of nudge over here. So, I can play around with that position on the right hand side of the screen if I just need a little bit, right? Oh, that was a lot of bit. So then I can go like, let's see, what was that? 8, let's go 75. See, nudged it a little bit over, and then 874, etc., to get a little more thorough with that. Did that help? Okay. Is everybody feeling good about that so far? Yeah? All right. So I'm going to pause here, and this is your opportunity to ask me questions, to ask the group questions, because we got varying skill levels here. Some folks have done several. Some folks, this is the first one. Some folks have done a lot more. So let's share with one another. Let's help one another. Kathy, that's a great point. Use graph paper to make squares with names. I do think that the more videos you have to pre-plan a bit, and I almost think of it as storyboarding, right? Like you've seen Pixar, and when they're putting those together, Kathy, in the same way, right? Or even on a big whiteboard, it's like just start to map it out, and graph paper would be beautiful for making that happen. So that's a great tip. Michelle, you asked, can we create a template? That would be a miracle, and I don't know. I'll be honest, I don't know if you can within DaVinci Resolve. Miss Jeannie, yes.
I was hearing somebody address that, and something else I saw in this process. They went out in their computer and made a template and brought it in somehow. I don't know.
Ooh, that's a game changer.
Yeah, a template out in their computer and another area and brought it in.
Sticky note, template. I will be on the search for what that looks like, and if you guys want to also look at that as well and bring it to next week's meeting, so we can, because you guys are going to have follow-up questions. Some of you are in varying stages. You've just reached out to your choir members. They're in the process of getting those videos to you. You've figured out the Dropbox thing. Some of you are just now getting your files. You're putting it into Audacity. And then this next week, you're going to get into the actual video editing. And you're going to have questions along the way. I encourage you to map those out. Yes, you can reserve them for these calls, or you can throw those into the community. Again, we've got that community chat feature. Let's have a conversation. Guys, it is so, so powerful, us being together like this. Who was it last week? It was Michelle, you commented on just the power of community and the fact that we all are pursuing our important work with excellence and passion together, and this is important work, my friends. This is kingdom work, and I'm just grateful to have you all on these calls, sharing with one another and helping one another. So, what questions do you have for our final few minutes here? And then I know you're going to have others. Pam.
So I may be overreaching here. Maybe I should just keep it simple. But so once you have your, I'll just call them your singer boxes set up, is there a way to change that center box? So, so my piece, as you know, has a soloist, but then there's a second little solo part that comes into play at little times. So it'd be great if I could put that other soloist center stage during their solo time. So is there a way to do that? I mean, I'm sure there's a way to do it, but do you know?
I don't know an easy way. What I would think in that situation is have your primary soloist in the center box to begin with. Create one video with that person as the center box and save it off. And then you could create another video and replace that soloist with a second soloist, save that off. There's a very, very powerful function within DaVinci Resolve that I'm learning to love, especially for videos that go from one camera angle to another. I've been doing a lot of videos lately where we'll bring in a soloist or even a handbell trio, and we'll set up 5 cameras and that could be iPhones, that could be Canon DSLRs, it could be lots of different things. We set them up, and we put SD cards in them, and we just let them run. And we do 2 or 3 takes. We get to take the best take. I can import those into DaVinci Resolve and line them up with the audio with one click. Lines everything up. It's amazing. It doesn't necessarily work for like the traditional virtual choir thing. That's why I didn't share it today. But if you watch the DaVinci Resolve course that I have in the community, I go through how to create that with your multiple camera angles. Because what you could do, Pam, is if you save off your 2 videos and say you end up having 2 or even 3 that you want to work with. Maybe there's another video you want the accompanist in the middle to show. I don't know if he did a video, right? Or it could look anyway. And you have 3 videos that you've saved off. Well, now you can easily change from one video to the next using what's called the multicam view within DaVinci Resolve, and it helps you switch. It's a real-time switcher, and I go through it in that course, and it's really easy to do. Did that make sense? I said a lot of words there, and I just want to make sure that didn't muddy the waters. Okay. Michelle, yes.
I had something really strange happen. I'm at the beginning of this process as well, but one of my singers, who happens to be my best soprano, was the only person out of 25 who sent me a file that was WMV instead of MP4 or MOV. I didn't know that was going to be an issue, except it wouldn't populate. It wouldn't show me the audio in Audacity. And I couldn't figure out why. And I thought, well, it's got to be because it's this different file. So
Right.
She converted it. But then when I went to listen to the audio, it was a half step flatter than everybody else. And she's my best singer, so I know it isn't her.
Yeah.
And I had the same thing happen too, and it was a little bit faster. The very same thing. It wasn't as
Okay. I figured it had to be something in the conversion that really distorted it.
Yeah.
Audacity can change the pitch.
I wondered that too. Oh,
It can.
okay. I'd like to learn how to do that for a lot of my singers.
Yeah. Oh, I know what you're saying exactly. There's a transpose thing button in Audacity. It's in the effects area. And you're right, Michelle, that it happened in the compression process or the conversion process. We must have the same choir, because I had one person send me a WMV file for our first presentation, and I was like, this I can't work with it. I'm gonna have to have her re-record it. I don't even remember what I did. I ended up being able to work with it. Now, I will say it was not the same quality as all the rest of my videos, but there are better converters out there than others. It may be one of those things, though, Michelle, in this situation, for me, it wasn't my strongest singer. And if this is someone who you're looking to sort, we know those folks, right, who are going to carry the section, especially on something like this, since we're not hearing one another in a room, and blend and all is not going to be what it typically is. It may be one of those things that her video is so important that you look at maybe even bringing her in if she doesn't have a way to get an MP4 a movie file to you, which is a QuickTime file, and bring her in and record that in your office or in your sanctuary, or however you want that to look, and do the whole choir virtual thing so it's consistent with all the rest, but just get the level of the quality that you're after, because you may find that with it being WMV, and if that's all she can do, that you're going to run into that repeatedly with her. And with her being a stronger singer, you're going to really lean on her.
Well, the irony is that she's our communications director, and so she knows how to do all this stuff much better than I do. She uses Movavi, and I was like, why of all people did she decide to do it? I couldn't figure it out. But I just decided not to use her audio this time, since I've got 9 sopranos. I wasn't going to have her redo it.
Sure, and maybe you try that tactic. That Richard, that was you that suggested, right? I believe it was. That tactic in Audacity of transposing. I have the in the Audacity course online, I show the effects, how to add those, but I was going to real quick, because it's really easy to do, just bring that up and share that with you right now, because that specific tool might just be what you need.
I suggested it, and I've used it, and it does work.
Jeffrey, thank you for suggesting that. All right, so here's Audacity. Okay. Nope. Goodness gracious. It's just not, it's user error. User error is what it is. Don't take responsibility, Chris. Okay, so up here in the effects, you guys should be able to see that. These are all faded out just because I don't have audio imported, but if you look, let's see, change pitch right there. And you can, once you click on that, you'll have a few different options to play with it if you want to take it up a few cents or down a few cents or whatever that looks like. So play around with that, Michelle. Maybe that will help you. Any other questions before we run off and start getting hard at work on the video editing process? All right, remember our community, friends. Ask your questions. That's why it's there. I'm excited to see all the questions we're going to have come through, and I'm excited to see all of the help that we're going to offer one another. So a few of you asked about the app. I will put that in the community as soon as we're off this call together. And if you are not in the community and you're like, Chris, I keep hearing you talk about the forums, how do I get in there? If you just joined, it was in the email that was sent to you and on the video page when you joined. But email me, chris@theresourcefulchurchmusician.com, and I will send you the link. And then we'll be ready to go. So thank you all for helping one another. Thank you. And Miss Lori, yes?
I don't know if this is helpful because
Lori, I'm not hearing you there.
Hey, hello? Can you
It
hear
does
me
feel
now?
like you're unmuted. I bet it's a preference up there in Zoom and something with your audio level. So if you go to Zoom and then under Zoom preferences at the top left-hand side of your screen,
Lori, I can hear you just fine.
Yeah.
Oh.
and then you should see microphone in the middle somewhere.
Hey,
Okay.
And if not, you can use the
hear
chat
us?
box there and ask that, and I will happily answer that way.
Okay, maybe Chris can't hear us.
Yeah, Chris, can you hear us? Because we can hear Lori just
Oh, y'all
fine.
hear her, but I'm not hearing her?
Yeah.
That is strange.
You must. He must have just put me on mute.
Michelle, can you say something?
Yeah, I can hear Lori. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, Michelle.
What about now?
Hello.
I am perplexed.
I can hear Lori.
Well, I'll go ahead and just say what I was going to say. So this might not help because I've never used DaVinci Resolved. I use Movavi.
My volume
But
is up?
as far as that soloist thing, that's
I'm going crazy. I don't know.
Okay, Lori's going to say her question, and we're just going to listen to her, okay?
Can y'all hear me?
We can hear you
Okay.
too, but
So can someone
let
help
Lori-
Lori?
yeah, let Lori ask her question for a moment, okay?
And y'all hey, just go like this when you're ready, when we're ready to go, okay? After Lori's
Okay.
question, we'll cut it off, okay?
Okay, sounds good.
okay. So it's not really a question, just a thought for whoever said that they had the soloist that they wanted to show. I would imagine you could maybe do something like this with DaVinci. I know in Movavi, what I did with the video before was at whatever point I wanted that solo to happen, I cut the other videos. Like I did a splice here, and then just deleted that part of the other videos because everyone's just sitting there anyway, and they're not doing anything. So you really don't want that if they're, scratching their nose or something. And what I did was to move into that soloist video, because I had cut the others, I think that automatically my soloist video got big and took up the whole screen. And so I did a fade transition at the end of the other videos. I allowed it to kind of fade out from the other singers and it faded out the other singers or something. I can't remember exactly, but there was just some kind of transition where I cut out those parts that I didn't need, and then I used some nice transition to make it look pretty. So
Yeah, Lori, that's a great idea. Thank you. That's another good idea.
That's good.
Lovely. Yeah. So Chris, Lori was just giving me an
Hey, I just want to say I loved that. I loved that was a God thing. Everything's a God thing, but that was a big God thing. It was like, Chris, just shut up. They got it. They got this thing. So that was awesome. Thank you all for helping Lori and helping one another out. God is good. I appreciate you guys. And I'm in prayer for you every day. Seriously, let's keep serving the Lord with excellence and passion, and keep pouring into our people. And we'll see you in just a bit, my friends. 10-second countdown. Say your goodbyes. 10, 9,
everybody.
8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Adios, my friends.